Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dadurday Night Live. It's Dadurday, and we're coming at you live. All right?
We are the Bachelors of Science, and it's tough right now. We don't have actual classrooms to go back to, so we're forced to venture into the virtual world to answer some of your most pressing scientific questions.
A Zoom classroom where I can't directly get onto people or throw chalk, the chalk dusters at them. Like, this is a challenging time for us.
I don't know about learning. Learning is going downhill without physical correction in the classroom, as we'll put it.
Yeah. But, as times change, we have to adapt. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go ahead and take you into a classroom here in a second. But, first we did want to say we've seen, some of these My Four Dad shirts. Those are available for purchase, right?
Good sure. Unscripted plug.
Oh, yeah. I was not in any way told to say they were shirts. That is something that I just noticed totally naturally, and now I'm bringing it up as, something for you. I'm doing you a favor. Like, people run low on shirts. If you need a new shirt, that's a great shirt to have.
Right? Also, extra credit. You'll get extra credit for buying a shirt.
Looks like a link in the chat. Grab it. Anyway.
So today we're not coming at you with a specific topic in mind because we've been out of school for a while, as have you. We're going to do a Professor AMA.
That's right. You can ask us anything. Anything science related, kind of science related. Because a lot of things that people don't think are science, they're actually science, and we're absolutely willing to go into those things with you. Between the two of us, we have, I think, 50 PhDs. Yeah, so we've spent a lot of time doing a lot of stuff, covering a lot of fields. So in the chat, if you would like to go ahead and start throwing in some of those questions that you have about science that you've always wanted answered, those weird questions that maybe you didn't want to bring up in an actual classroom setting, but now we're in a Zoom classroom setting, right? Let me go ahead and switch over to the classroom here.
Oh, yeah, good point. And as an AMA, this requires you to participate as an asker, because as soon as we run out of questions, essentially the AMA is over.
That's right. All right. So getting into here, we've got herd mentality. This is a very interesting subject, talking about creatures and why they do what they do. It's always hard to get into the mindset of a creature. But I think if you think back to when you were a child, you'll find it. Because that's all of what mostly elementary school is herd mentality right there.
That's right. You're born with herd mentality. All babies across the spectrum come out crying, pooping, peeing. It's not the action that's important, but the fact that everybody is doing it together. And then as we're conditioned by society, we get separated from that natural herd mentality that we're born with.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's a game of follow the leader. And then now we're living in this individualistic society that is so far from, where we were when we grew up. Sometimes it's important, that old question of, would you, if all your friends jumped off the cliff, would you too? I say, yes, you should. Because if they're all jumping, there's probably a good reason. Maybe if there's a stampede of herding buffalo behind you, and jumping off the cliff into the water below is the safest option.
At the very least, you'll look good doing it. A synchronized diving is a beautiful thing to witness. But just one person diving off alone, now you've segregated that person from your society. They're going to come back as a masked serial killer, talking about they know what you did, and what you did is not sink into your base instincts with herd mentality.
That's right. So, end of the day, when it comes to the herd, follow the herd. There's a reason they're there. All right? It's important.
All right, I'm scrolling back up. We got a lot of questions. Class is in session.
All right.
Next one is, why don't I spin as hard as the Earth does? I skipped a few. We'll go back up. I missed one. But why don't I spin as hard as the Earth does? And this is a really, really good question because, as we all know, the Earth is supposedly spinning at all times. This is a falsification, if you will. Truly, we need to go back to our roots. Flat Earth, Earth is the center of the gravity. Those were close, but not exactly on the nose. What really is going on is the Earth is a projection. The sky is a projection around you. And that spins, surely. But the Earth is a stationary object in the sky.
That's right. So anytime you do spin, you're actually spinning harder than the Earth. Like, it may not feel like it. You may feel like, you're part of a bigger system. It's doing bigger things. It's just not true. It's all very basic. And as whatever, amount you spin is sufficiently spinning. For sure. All right, we'll go back up to what does COVID taste like? A very timely question for right now. And the truth is, there's a hint of peppermint. What are your experiences, Dr. Copples?
That's right. I caught COVID just a few weeks ago and documented the experience in my diary because what's interesting is the flavor changes throughout the course of the experience of the disease. It starts off as a nice, subtle garlicky scallop, kind of like an appetizer. And then it grows into a meaty steak with a hint of peppermint, which is odd, but this is a disease we're talking about. It hasn't had much time to learn how to cook a full course meal, and so it's just throwing ingredients in there without really understanding what's important.
Yeah, COVID, the experience of having COVID is obviously in some cases very bad, but in some cases it's tamer. And when it's tamer, it's more like a bad chef, as he was explaining. And we've all dealt with bad chefs. I myself am a bad chef. So, let's not be too hard on the bad chef experiences. I haven't went out and got the COVID yet. I've thought about it for research purposes, but I figured I'd be the control group to Dr. Cobble's test example.
Give it time. That's my recommendation. Just give COVID a little bit more time to figure out what the best taste combinations are. And then at that point, you'll have red wine paired with the red meat. You'll have a full course of dessert. It'll be great. Give it time. Wait for it. And don't get the vaccine before you need to. Catch the disease, enjoy it, and then get the vaccine.
But not really. Anyway, why is gravity? And this, everybody asks why is gravity, but nobody asks how is gravity. Have you ever thought about how gravity feels? It's dragging people down. Gravity is naturally a depression, okay? We all feel it, When you feel the weight of a certain circumstance, what we're saying is you feel the gravity of the circumstance, Weight and gravity is all about your emotional state.
That's right. If we go back to the ancient text and we look at the great Sisyphus, that actually is a metaphor for gravity. Obviously, you have the boulder rolling down the hill with gravity, but what we don't talk about, we talk about Sisyphus, but we don't talk about the boulder. And it's working equally hard to make this story happen. Without the boulder forcing itself to participate in that kinetic energy, which is draining, we would never have that story nor that metaphor.
Why don't birds get electrocuted when they land on an electric wire? This is because birds are electric. It doesn't affect them. To go back to the very scientifically based Pokemon games, an electric move against an electric type is not very effective. They're not conductive because they're already the electric.
Now, this isn't true for all birds. Some birds, like the great heron, the penguin, those birds indeed would get shocked to a little crisp if they got up on a power line. Because they are of the water type.
Yeah, it's super effective. Where do babies come from? Honestly, this is still a mystery. We don't know. Some have theorized that It comes from certain people. Some say certain birds, which are electric, bring them. But honestly, we don't know for sure. We've
Heard
tried.
a lot of theories from people that venture into other majors. The scientific major, unfortunately, is the one least equipped to answer this question. I recommend you go look into kinesiology or business. They seem more successful in this venture.
Yeah, I think it comes from pole vaulting. There's something about the vaulting and the height in spawns the babies. I don't know. It's a theory. It's not worked out, but I have my suspicions. Science me this. The sky is blue. Why not purple? Thank you, I guess, the Riddler, for asking this in the form of a question. Uh, the sky is blue, but why not purple? And interestingly, it used to be purple.
It did not that long ago. The crystals that power the Earth and the projection around the Earth were essentially they had more power. Slowly and over time, they have drained, and we are moving down the spectrum of Roy G. Biv. And so at the beginning, we had ultraviolet light. That was in the time of dinosaurs. They had different eyes than us, and they could see. And they could see. That's why humans weren't very strong then. We were around, we just couldn't see anything. We were essentially blind salamanders. And as time goes on, we'll get to green light, green skies, and then red skies.
Yeah, and when it comes to the time of the red skies, that's when the lobsters will rule the earth. Obviously, anything with a strong connection to the color red is going to be, have a better chance evolutionarily. So, just be prepared for the lobster overlords. I already am. I haven't gone to Red Lobster in a long time, and I'm going to bring that up when they do a rise to power.
I was born a Cancer, and so that also gives me immunity to the rise of power of the lobsters. So look into your star signs. Maybe if you're a rising moon in Cancer, you'll also have some safety there. Unfortunately, Taurus, you're going to be screwed.
All right. Is it true that if you have livestock in Texas, you don't have to pay property taxes? This is actually true because you can treat the livestock as a property. And the IRS can't nail you down because you don't have a permanent address. As long as your livestock is moving around, doing stuff, legally, they can't send you anything, to your livestock. So I always register my livestock as a property.
It's a give and take, though. You can also have stationary livestock, and then if you bias them enough, they will indeed have the ability to vote in the upcoming election. So yeah, you're going to have to pay higher taxes, but your livestock get a say in our next president.
What do stars wish on? And I think what they wish on is probably other stars, but I think what's really interesting is what the stars wish for. And the stars, often I've heard stars wish for ponies, which is a very 13-year-old girl thing to do, but they absolutely do. I think a star's biggest dream is to just ride a pony, have a pony. Maybe they're full on horse stars. They want the full horse, but I think a lot of stars are a little hesitant to take up the responsibilities of a full horse and prefer a smaller pony.
And moving on to the next question, I recognize that we are all going through changes, some later than others. Why is an erection hard upkeep? Now, I'm going to be upfront with you. I don't know if this is actually a scientific question. This is more of who you are deep down. Are you a persister, or do you give up? And look at that before you look at the biology of a hard upkeep erection. Think about, am I somebody that washes my dishes on time? If that's true, you're probably not asking this question.
Yeah. It all starts with your habits, in your day-to-day life. That's where you build this consistency of upkeeping your life. Think about upkeeping your life before upkeeping anything else. You know what I mean? Uh, why am I bummed out? I'm gonna say this was a typo. This is supposed to be out. Why am I bummed out at the bottom of a box of Cracker Jacks? And that's because there are no more. This is a deep philosophical question right here.
Why am I bummed? It could also be read directly as why. Why am I put at the bottom?
Oh,
Oh, no, I completely ignored the bummed. But maybe the bummed was not supposed to be there.
no,
Why
but
am I put at the bottom of a box of Cracker Jacks? Now, this has the opposite spin. This is the more optimistic spin. And that means that you're a prize. You're a prize for somebody, and you just gotta wait until all those kernels are pulled up off of you, those kernels of depression, those kernels of sadness and pressure and responsibility. And then one day somebody's gonna look at you and think, wow, this is what I've been waiting for all of my childhood life.
that's right. Every day you need to wake up and think, I'm the prize at the bottom of the Cracker Jacks, right? And that'll do a whole lot for you, knowing that you're something to work towards and you're worth it, all right? How many ants are there? There's actually only four.
Four
Now,
types of ants, to be specific.
no, I think there's actually only four ants.
Hmm?
The rest of them are copies. If you've ever looked at an ant, have you ever been able to tell the difference between one ant versus another ant? No, I've tried. I've tried very hard. I've looked very closely. And I think they're all mostly the same ant. There's probably about four ants in total. The other ones you see are just copies of the original ant. So you got your red ants and your black ants and your tiny little kind of clearish ants. And then there's a fourth ant in the Amazon. I've never seen it, but I've seen pictures of it. It looks badass.
This is amazing. I'm learning stuff along with you students. This is the beauty of being paired with Professor Law, who has a completely different background of degrees.
I've never ventured into the rainforest just because it seems super scary. But I sent interns in to take pictures, and they sent them back. It was really interesting stuff.
This next question seems to be geared more towards my background. If hydrogen, lithium, beryllium, then boron, carbon, nitrogen, well, why not helium? Apparently, the Riddler is back at it. And what we have to do here is decode the elements put here into their two-letter configurations, their symbols. And when you do that, you have if, how, then brat. Well, why not he? And this is a question that goes back to the ancient Mesopotamian Empire of if, how, why brat, which were both Mesopotamian gods that were condensed into a singular god, which is the root of all monotheistic religions. Crystal, very, very good question. I'm glad you brought that up for everybody.
Next, we have what is an Avogadro? Why aren't birds real? Hashtag birds aren't real. And why aren't birds real? They're electricity, a form of energy. So energy is in a sense real, but we often think of things that have matter as real, and those are two sides of a coin, energy and matter. Birds just dwell on the energy side of it, and that's why they aren't real.
Now, there is, of course, for every piece of energy, there is a piece of matter. And so the opposites of birds are bats. Bats are not energy at all, but they are actual physical beings.
Only matter.
And that is also why they come out during the night versus the day to keep the balance of energy and matter together, which is, I believe, the second law of thermodynamics.
Moving on, why do islands not float? Uh, well, that's because they're volcanoes. The islands being volcanoes is because ultimately the inner Earth didn't want them, so they shot them off. You have these different core layers, obviously flat of the Earth, and working back, some of the layers they're not liked. It's a bit like a high school cafeteria in the inner core of the Earth. Some people are liked; they're the in group. Others they're not, and they get pushed out, and that's how they form the islands. They're not floating because they're not confident enough yet. I think we could work towards a point where islands float on their own, but right now they need a support group, and that's okay.
They're repelled by the bully that is gravity. You can think of gravity as the bully in the cafeteria that is going through their dark emo phase, and the islands is the nice party girl who just can't get along with that bully. And so the bully pushes her away. And that is, of course, why we see so many island cultures that are also happy places, party places, because they are pushed away from the dark core that is gravity.
Uh, why don't pandas ask for dating advice? And the truth is here, they do. Unfortunately, people don't pay much attention. It could be a lot of typos in the messages they send because their thumbs are too big. They got big paws. It could be that they're goofy looking and no one thinks they're taking the dating seriously. In the zoo world, pandas are an endangered species. They're trying to get these animals to reproduce, and it's hard. Because no one's really listening for the advice.
Also, they're set up for failure. That's the sad thing about pandas in general, is that when they do finally work up the courage to manage a good dating invite, they end up going out for bamboo.